And my guest today is Jennifer Flynn, the SVP Business Affairs and General Counsel of the Professional Women's Hockey League. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be
Oh, it's
here.
great. It's great to have you. We've had every sort of league, new, old, and now we get to have a fairly new league, I guess, year two of the league.
Year two. It came together very quickly about 14, 15 months ago. I love the origin story for the league in that, there were players that came together and rallied around Billie Jean King and said, we really like your support in helping us, build a new league, one that we, the players, can have a seat at the bargaining table and, negotiate for what they viewed as, rights that they were that they that that they were deserving of, and with the assistance of Billie Jean King, um, who with Mark Walter, they are partners in the Los Angeles Dodgers. She, had some conversations with Mark, and he agreed to provide funding for the league for minimum of 8-year period. An 8-year CBA was signed at the outset, and that was really the genesis for the league. And we are, as you said, in about month 14, and have been building and growing fast and furiously over that period.
So let's start and talk about your job. I mean, titles are titles, but what is your job about? And then also, or you can lead off with this. We always like to get into what is the path that you took to find yourself in the seat you now have.
Well, the path, I once worked for someone who said, there is no yellow brick road to any sort of job in sports. And mine, I suppose, I feel that, the seat I'm sitting in now it's a nice sort of coming together of a lot of my past experiences. I spent the first 15 years of my career with the Fenway Sports Group companies, working primarily with the Boston Red Sox and Nesson and Fenway Sports Management. And I feel very fortunate in that, when I started, my second day on the job, the previous ownership group announced that they were selling the team, and we were all sort of put in a wait and see position. And I was fortunate that Larry Lucchino and John Henry and Tom Werner acquired the team and brought in a really impressive, smart group that had very high RPM levels, and sort of brought a new vision and view for the company. And I was able to really work alongside and be trained by some really impressive people, including Larry Lucchino, Janet Marie Smith, and others. And Janet, I would say, I really owe a lot of debt of gratitude to her. I'm in the seat I'm in now because of her, because she invented the work from home model many, many years ago, and she, throughout her illustrious career, worked not only for Larry Lucchino for 30 something years, but also Stan Kasten, who's now the president of the Dodgers. And, and so the opportunity with respect to the PWHL came to me through Janet. And it was, I knew her from, working with her for over 10 years at Fenway on major renovations there. And then had the pleasure of working alongside her again to build Polar Park, the minor league ballpark for the Boston Red Sox AAA affiliate, when they relocated from Pawtucket, Rhode Island to Worcester. And now I'm sort of in the same ecosphere with her again, working alongside a lot of Dodgers people in my current role. Our board is comprised of Stan Kasten of the Dodgers, and another gentleman at the Dodgers, Royce Cohen, and Billie Jean King's wife, Alana Klaas.
And so let's talk about your job. What are you doing on a day to day? I know no day is like any other day in the role that you have, but What are some of the areas that you're doing and that comprise your role with the organization?
Well, it is. We're a professional sports league with currently 6 teams and plans to expand, and are operating in 2 countries, but we are at the same time an early stage startup. So I would say that my role expands to the things that you would normally think about when you're thinking out about a professional sports league, whether it be media rights agreements, merchandising, licensing, corporate sponsorships, venue, marketing and advertising related matters, IP, tax, sort of all the things that would be customary to think about for any sports league or team. And then at the same time, in parallel, we're also still like building the infrastructure that supports this league day to day, whether it is corporate governance, thinking about staffing and growing, thinking about day-to-day finance matters and HR. So I think it's really a little bit of everything, and that's been expected of everyone at the league, that really we all wear a lot of different hats and we're all pitching in. And I have to say that the group that I'm working alongside is really remarkable, and I think it's, I don't know, I've said that it seems to be the lowest ego organization I've worked for, because I think people really feel so strongly about the mission and what we're building and what we're accomplishing and the importance of it to so many people, young and old, male and female, that not every no one has sort of just one narrow focus. It's really a little bit of everything, and pitching in to really build the league in a manner that we can all be very proud of.
Yeah, you've already noted that it's a fairly young league. You've just the second season is underway, and I think you guys play at like 24 game regular season, something like
30,
that.
yeah. 30, yep.
And we have 6 teams, three in Canada, three in the USA. So, apropos of current things, you've got teams traveling cross border. Any issues popping up there, or you have relative ease of moving players?
I mean, I don't know that I wouldn't call them issues. I think that they're things that had to be, planned for and thought about, with respect to immigration and tax issues and the like. But no, I don't think that I wouldn't call anything an issue. I think, there was a lot of foresight, in the early stages to make sure that everything was set up well. And like every good organization, we have really good support systems and consultants, and making sure that we had, that we had, things in place to allow that to happen. So it certainly, for me, from a legal perspective, from an HR perspective in particular, it requires really expanding your knowledge base to distinctions between U.S. and Canadian laws, and at all, not just HR, but from all areas of our business and operations. But I wouldn't say that anything's been an issue, but I think it's been certainly something that we've had to spend time making sure that we had a good handle on.
Now, how many of the 6 teams are there roster limitations that often leagues have? Is there any sort of academy program, or what's the funnel that gets women into the league?
The funnel, I mean, I think I would say that we have a heavy emphasis right now on some grassroots initiatives and efforts. You know, pull. People there's players are from around the globe, and some are collegiate, some aren't. But I think that we've done some really impressive work, just over the past year, really starting to think about getting our players involved in really invigorating youth hockey activities around the country and in Canada. Although, of course, it needs, there's probably a little less need for that in Canada right now, with the popularity of it a little bit greater than in the U.S. But that's, there's certainly an effort to make sure that our efforts are expanding the pool of potential PWHL candidates for many, many years to come.
And are we ready? We're at this sort of early part of year two. Is there already discussions about trying to expand beyond the six teams, the three in Canada and the three in the US?
Yes, yes. We've, it's sort of a timely question. There, we've our Amy Shear, our EVP of Business Operations, and Jana Hefford, who heads up our hockey operations, have stated publicly over the past couple months that expansion is the idea. It is the plan. We're not sure. We haven't announced anything yet. And but the plan is certainly to be aggressive in expanding our reach. And we've done what we've called the takeover tour, where this year we played 9 neutral site games. We took the teams across the U.S. and Canada to new markets, and that was a resounding success. And we use that as sort of one marker in terms of where we might want to be looking at expansion amongst many others. But the plan is certainly to grow the league on a very probably, I would say, rapid basis.
Well, it seems that, where you just mentioned your 9 stop neutral site tour was, at least the metrics I've looked at, seemed very successful in terms of, butts in the seats that you guys were able to get. That must have been a happy moment in the offices.
It was, and I think I've heard a lot of people. I feel this way, and I know that a lot that people in the organization do too. They feel very emotional. They get very emotional when they see the turnout that the team see each and every day, but particularly around the takeover tour, because it is a sort of one-off in each market where people are making a real effort to be there and are excited to be there. I think my background has been in more traditional legacy sports where I was at Fenway Park when the Red Sox broke the curse in 2004, and it was very special. But I didn't shed a tear. But I along with many others in our front office find ourselves very, I guess, verklempt on a regular basis, because it is really amazing to see the turnouts for all the games, including the takeover tour, and they're really the effort that went in to making those events happen was really Herculean, I think, across the board, because it really did take a village to pull those events off in such a way that they were such a resounding success.
So from a just a good old lawyer's perspective, 9 stops means 9 separate negotiations with 9 separate venues, on and on and on. What was that process like, and how I mean, with the expansive nature of the league and how far it's gone in 14 months, it sounds like a Mr. Toad's Wild Ride to get those 9 deals done.
Yes, yes, it was. That was a lot of work, and I have a great team. I have 3 other lawyers that are on the team with me now, and it's definitely we are just like the rest of the group. Really, we all complement each other. We all bring different skill sets to the table. We all rely on each other to get all of this work done, because there is. It's a lot of work. But I think everyone has it just knows how important the mission is, and is willing to put the time in. But yeah, it's certainly been a lot of time at the typewriter over the past 14, 15 months.
Still use a typewriter, eh? Uh, one of the things I'm curious to know about is, as this league is developing, and without getting into any details, the public records are available about salaries for the players that have been bargained and different levels, et cetera, et cetera. But to really grow a sport, you need 2 things to my mind's eye. One is to have a culture of the sport so people relate to it. And then the second is, once you have that, having a media play. So, what is the league doing with regards to A, creating stars, which helps, and B, media rights? Because I know that there is a Canadian deal because it's hockey and it's Canada, and in the U.S. it's a little different kind of media setup. Can you talk a little bit about those differences?
I would say that with respect to media rights, I think that one of the smartest things that our board and leadership group decided to do very early on was to invest in high quality production. I think, when you turn on a game in the US on Nesson or MSG or a FanDuel network, or in Canada on Amazon Prime and TSN and CBC, I think that you you see the same quality level that you would see for any other professional game, and I think that went very far in terms of establishing the sort of legitimacy of the league for those sort of casual fans at home who, people like my parents who can turn on a game and watch the Fleet on Nesson the same that they can watch the Bruins or the Red Sox. That I think that went very far, particularly in year one, and really making it clear, making because first of all, the hockey product itself is amazing. It's such high quality hockey, and I think that the ability to really deliver that high quality product in a high quality way that on networks that people are familiar with was very smart and went a long way. So I think that was sort of the most important part of the media strategy from my perspective, is to make sure that the product was delivered correctly, and we have some really impressive people, of course, on our production team that spend a lot of time making sure that happens. And I think, in terms of putting our players out first and foremost, I think, we've been able to, players can, obviously can do their own sort of endorsement deals if they want, but we have done a really nice job. I think our sponsorship people in particular have done an amazing job of really incorporating our players in a way that makes them shine. And we have some great partners, whether it's Bauer, who puts a lot of money against women's sports in particular. Here in Boston, they have an amazing partnership with Nesson, where they've actually are presenting sponsor of all of our games on Nesson. But I think, we've been able to incorporate our players in a way into our sponsorship sort of packages that allows them to elevate their name and brand.
Well, I think that's really important. And in terms of the media deals you have, I assume the goal is to get on some national games. Are there any nationally broadcast games yet for the league?
In Canada, there are. In U.S., we're looking at some different options for the first couple years. We've the all of the games were available globally on, or wherever it was available on YouTube. In addition to our regional partners, which I think went a long way also in really building this fan base that really, to me, this league that we're generally, it's generations, it takes generations to establish this loyalty. There is, to me, it's so touching that there has been such a fandom and loyalty that's really been created in such a short period, where people really already care deeply about these teams in their markets. And I think, having the games available on YouTube, and available beyond just the markets for the teams was important in terms of engaging the fan and making them feel part of it. And we did this year already reach our millionth fan, which was really fun to celebrate.
That's definitely something to celebrate. Within the I guess the construct of the media space, when you're going in, I would expect that the expectations when you're launching a league a year ago, that you just wanted to get some carriage somewhere. Given the fact that you had a very successful, neutral site tour, is that adding to the value of the league in terms of obtaining new media rights deals?
Um, I think that there's I don't know that that's one. That's probably one. I wouldn't, I think that we brought value right away. I don't know that like how much incrementally I would say that we have now. From last year, I think we've always felt like this was an amazing product that people will watch, and that's what we've seen. And we'll continue to negotiate with and just have discussions with potential partners to see what works best with where we think we're at with our fans. So I don't know that it's like a value proposition other than we know it's a great product, and we do know that people are watching.
What about, we always like to talk, particularly in emerging sports, and particularly with women's sports, which I've discussed with many people on this program, is the implications of Title IX creating opportunities for women in sports. Has that been true of hockey, or has hockey been an outlier to this whole growth of women's sports through the collegiate programs in the U.S. at least?
Well, when I was just a little kid, my grandfather was the athletic director at Boston College, and at the same time, he was the president of the NCAA, and he was the president of the NCAA when Title IX was enacted. And so I've spent sort of the last better part of the past 45, 46 years of my life watching the impacts of Title IX and feeling them. I think, it's a rising tide lifts all boats. I don't, I think that it's something that's been a long time coming. I think that I love that, my boss, Amy Shear, she came up with the tagline when we first started, ice time earned. And to me, like that really encapsulates what's going on here. It's time that it's no longer time for the girls to have to be relegated to the broom closet to change their clothes and have ice time at 4 in the morning or 11 at night. I think it's been a steady climb for all sports and for all women's sports over the past 45 or so years. And I think it is just so gratifying to see the girls skating around on the ice because it is so well earned and time and deserved.
Yeah, anecdotally, I was talking to a colleague of mine who was very excited a month or so ago. We were talking, and his 9-year-old daughter scored her first goal playing in youth hockey, and he just thought it was the greatest. And what was interesting is I was asking, so what really excites her? He said, well, she gets to watch women professionally play hockey now. And
Mm-hmm.
these are the kinds of stories that are so relatable because, you know, when I was a kid, I watched Saturday National Baseball because it was a big deal and I could see players doing things I wanted to learn how to do. And I think having this opportunity for young girls is a huge driver to how new leagues such as yours can succeed.
Yes, I think that's a big part of why it didn't take generations to sort of establish some loyalty and fandom for these teams because right away that this meant so much to little girls, to the parents. I love it's sort of just become commonplace. It feels almost Taylor Swift concert esque, where the girls at our games and the boys make their own signs, and a lot of them say play like a girl, and I love it. I love seeing all of the signs, and it has had that sort of heart just pulls at your heartstrings, seeing that type of, like, seeing the looks in their eyes, hearing them say I know I can do it. And, I think it's great too that the little boys, and young boys see it too, because they're no longer thinking, oh, it's just the guys that play hockey. They are growing up. There's a generation that's now growing up, whether it's hockey, basketball, or otherwise soccer, where it's commonplace to turn on the TV to see women competing at the highest levels. It's commonplace to see them in commercials where it's a pure mix of the women and the men pro athletes that are getting paid endorsement money to represent these major brands. So I think that it's had a remarkable impact already, and I think there's just a lot more to come.
In sports, particularly in collision sports, there's been a lot of talk in the last 10 years, really, and anecdotally a bit before that, but about player health and safety. How is your league addressing that in terms of allowable contact, as it were, in hockey, which is a collision sport?
Right. The rules provide for a little bit less contact than the men's game, and I think that some people really like that. It's a little bit different game. There's a lot of similarities, but there's some differences, including like some really cool innovative rules. I'm not I don't know if you're familiar with some of the innovative rules that went into place. One of my favorite is the jailbreak rule. If a team scores a shorthanded goal during a minor penalty, the penalty against them is immediately terminated, freeing their penalized player from the box. And a lot of our players have had fun with that. There's the no escape rule. The no escape rule requires the players on a team that takes a penalty to remain on the ice until after the face-off that resumes action. And some others. So I think our hockey group has been really smart and intelligent and forward thinking in ways that they can where this game can be distinguished a little bit from the men's game, but still honoring the tradition of the game.
Also, it's interesting because the PWHL has a very interesting scoring system, and it's different than anything I've seen in hockey. What's sort of the genesis of we'll call it the 3-2-1, and the establishment of that in the league, which I think is a really cool idea and makes it, as a viewer, it's very different to look at the game and say, oh, this means that, rather than just a goal is a goal is a goal.
Yeah, well, I won't profess to have had anything to do with that or any of these innovative rules, but I think along the same lines is just sort of thinking about ways to make this game a little bit unique, a little bit different, but still honoring the tradition. So I think all of it taken together just makes for a really cool on ice product.
And as the chief lawyer for the organization, what is it that wakes you up in the middle of the night with an oh gosh moment? Or are there too many to even
There's too
discuss?
many. It never stops. It never stops. It's a lot. It's a lot. Everyone's working around the clock. I think everyone here always has the PWHL top of mind, because we all feel a real deep sense of pride and responsibility in making sure that that we are doing this right, because it is such an important mission. And so I think everyone would say that there isn't just one thing. It's sort of a constant in the back of our head all the time, but in a good way, because we all really want to we want to make sure that this succeeds.
And are you guys, just on a minor note, it pops up in so many sports? Is the PWHL a ticketless, all digital organization now?
Well, we have to follow. We are not at the stage in our lifestyle span yet where we own our own venues, so we follow along, with whatever the venues rules are in that regard. So it's not entirely up to us how our tickets are distributed at this point, but maybe in another 10 years it'll be a different conversation.
Well, thank you for taking the time to
Thank
talk with us
you.
today. Really great. I mean, these emerging leagues, they come and they go, but I think we've a lot of lessons have been learned over the last 30, 40, 50 years about launching leagues. And I think you have a strong one, especially with the Walter commitment for whatever is it, 8 years or whatever he's committed to,
Yes.
that really can keep these things going. And I think also it's great to see the continued expansion of professional women's sports that has been in fits and starts, but I think with the success of the NWSL and the WNBA, it only makes sense that you guys have a great and bright future ahead. So thanks for sharing with us a little bit about your organization.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and as our little announcement, if you're not a member of the Sports Lawyers Association, why not? Go to sportslaw.org, sign up, and we've got our annual conference coming up in just a couple of weeks. Hope to see you all there in Nashville. And next November, we'll be doing our live mid-year symposium from London, England. So stay tuned for more on that. And Jen, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.